Long Beach, California, this is GovLove, a podcast about local government, brought to you by engaging local government leaders. I'm Meredith Reynolds, Deputy City Manager at the City of Long Beach, and your GovLove host for this episode. GovLove is produced by ELGL, Engaging Local Government Leaders. You can support GovLove by joining ELGL and taking advantage of professional development opportunities like Camp GovLife, the 2025 ELGL Annual Conference in Santa Rosa, California, from October 1st through 3rd. Whether you're a seasoned local government pro or a first-time local government camper, Camp GovLife is the perfect place to learn, grow, and make memories with fellow public servants. So visit elgl.org today and learn more and secure your spot. Also this year, we are celebrating 10 years of the GovLove podcast. Help us commemorate this important milestone by calling the GovLove hotline at 720-282-1752. Leave us a message with your favorite GovLove memories or your predictions on the next 10 years of local government. You just might be featured on the spot on a future GovLove episode. And now, on with our show. Today's guest is Lesley Milton, Deputy City Manager at the City of St. Helena, California. Lesley previously served as the City Clerk for the City of Palo Alto and the Public Affairs Officer, City Clerk, and Assistant City Manager for the City of Seaside, and a Recycling and Sustainability Specialist for the City of Monterey. Lesley holds a Master's in Public Administration from California State University, Dominguez Hills. She's also a graduate from Harvard University's Senior Executives in State and Local Government program and Yale University's Women's Leadership program. She has earned a credential in Harvard's Public Leadership program and was also a Social Inclusion Fellow at UC Berkeley. Lesley holds a bachelor's in political science and criminology from Washington State University, and she is a food enthusiast, mother of 3, wife to a city administrator, dog owner, marathon racer, joy seeker, and Spartan finisher in no particular order.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here. I'm a huge fan of your podcast, and anytime I need an injection of public service energy, I always try to tune in.
I love that. Lesley and I got to talk a little bit before the episode, and this is one of her go-tos to bring her joy, which is definitely one of the key parts of ELGL's mission. So we appreciate that you listen to us, Lesley. All right, so we're going to have some fun. We'll start with a lightning round to have our listeners get to know you better. So there's a couple questions here I have for you. Let's start with, what is one fun fact about you?
It's kind of a weird one, but still kind of fun. So I'm married to a city administrator, and our dinner conversations are always really fun. Our kids love it. We talk about setback requirements and zoning codes and,
Super nerdy.
Ordinances. Yeah, absolutely. They're like, oh, again. But one thing that we love to do together is we do Spartan races together. And
Awesome.
I don't know if you know what those are. They're like races with mud and obstacles, and they're varying distances. They can be half marathons or marathons, but they're very hard. But it's funny when we see people we know and they're like, wait, and you're covered in mud, or you've just come out of a mud pit, or you're hanging upside down somewhere, and they're like, wait, you do this? But they're really great because you realize at the end you're so excited because you're like, I can do hard things. I can physically do hard things, and it makes you feel invincible. We go to work all the time and you're like, oh my gosh, the emotional challenge and, just the adaptive challenges that you have to deal with at work. And then you go out and do the physical challenge and you accomplish it. You're like, you feel on top of the world. It's so fantastic. And you get to play in the mud.
And it sounds like a day on the job, right? Obstacles, being in the mud, long distances.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. All right, what's the last movie or TV show you watched?
Well, this one's a little embarrassing. I have a 15-year-old daughter, and it's the end of summer, and so I'm letting her pick the movies. And so last night we watched The Kissing Booth, and they're just these cheesy teen rom-coms, and they're just adorable, and they're like, yeah, I cry and it feels silly, but she always gets so mad at me. She's like, come on. But it's embarrassing to admit.
That's okay. Our listeners will appreciate it. What is a book, article, or podcast you'd recommend other local government professionals check out?
Oh, okay. I've got a good one for this one. One thing I do every morning is I listen to or I read The Morning Brew. So there's
Cool.
this email newsletter that you can get, and it literally takes you less time than drinking a cup of coffee. I love that it's called the Morning Brew. I
Hmm.
subscribed to it because I thought it was like, financial news, like all the headlines of the day. But
Sure.
really, it's like such an amazing snapshot of everything that's happened, like the most significant things that have happened in the last 24 hours. And it's so witty. The writers of it are just they're brilliant, and you get really hooked on their humor. But it gives you the top headlines, it gives you financial impacts, it gives you like a little bit of the pop culture things. They
Hmm.
even do some like generational comparisons, or to kind of bring
Ooh,
people
fun.
along and keep you up. But or you can listen to the 20-minute podcast, and I call them my two nerdy boyfriends. And they just it's just such a great morning motivator to be like, hey, now I know what's going on in the world, and I've realized I can predict the trends, and been able to say, oh, well, I see that this is happening. This is a technology that's coming. We might be able to use or leverage. Or I sounded really smart going, oh yeah, no, I know that this, earnings are coming out and this is happening, and it makes you look good and
Hmm.
informed, but you can also kind of stay on top of cool current trends. And I've been able to get some like connections to services going, oh, I should look into that to see if that can help my city. So
Oh, very cool. Very
morning
cool.
brew.
Morning Brew. You heard it here first. All right. Last question. What is one quintessential St. Helena activity that you'd recommend others visit or try? Could be, an experience, food, wine, hike, city event, you name it.
Yeah, well, we are in the world-renowned Napa Valley wine region,
Mm-hmm.
so wine it's delicious wine. It really is. I'm currently in Italy right now, and I do actually have to tell you I miss the wine in Napa Valley. So, but if you are not a wine fan, it's a beautiful, beautiful place to go
It
just
is.
for just being out in nature. So the new Napa Valley Vine Trail is I'm so incredibly excited to put a recreation trail all the way that we're in the process of building one all the way through the entirety of Napa Valley. And so you can bike and experience the vines, not just driving, but you can go from one city to the next on your bicycle, and it is beautiful. I encourage you to do it either at sunrise or sunset. That is when the valley is the most beautiful, hands down.
Yeah, yeah. I've been on a portion of it and it's incredible. I love it. I've walked, my husband runs. And that twilight hour where,
Oh,
the beautiful leaves of the vines, grow, kind of glow, red or yellow or whatever the color
yes.
is of the season. It's beautiful.
And it doesn't matter what
Excellent.
time of year it is, even when all the leaves are off the vines and the grapes are gone, it still has a totally different type of beauty. It is. It's
Hmm.
just the colors with the mountainous backdrop. And I think recreation trails just absolutely improve the condition of a community
Yeah,
overall, hands
yeah.
down.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I hope our viewers can get to St. Helena someday because it is a gorgeous place, and Leslie was a part of that. So thank you for the lightning round.
Yep,
And we'll
of
jump
course.
into our questions today, Leslie. So let's get started with your public service origin story. How did you find your way into local government?
Ooh, it's an interesting question. My parents were, well, what are you going to be when you grow up? You can be your quintessential doctor, lawyer, astronaut, police officer, firefighter. I had no idea. Public service was never even on my radar. Like working for a local government, I didn't even know what a planner was. And so when my future husband said he was a planner, I'm like, what do you, what, I don't know what that means. So, but I ended up getting just this crazy opportunity. I was working for a police academy, and one of the FTOs said, "My wife works for the city, and there's an internship opportunity open. You should look into it. The city's a good gig if you can get it." I had no idea what that meant at the time. And so I started as an intern with the city of Monterey in traffic engineering. Now, being a crime and deviance sociology specialist, like
Hmm.
traffic engineering, why not? Because I have this life philosophy. When a door opens, walk through it. You
Yeah,
never know where that's going to take you, right? You just walk through it, and I did. And from the first month that I was there, I was like, this is the place. I fell in
that's so
love
cool.
with working for local government. And I just thought, like, what a it was fascinating. It was engaging. It was this I'm going to help the community that I live in directly. And you're going to pay me for it? That sounds
Right.
fantastic. Right? So I ended up the traffic engineering. I decided I just loved local government. So I started and applied and started to get my public administration master's degree because I really wanted to work on public policy. And working as recycling and sustainability coordinator, they had an opening. I applied, I competed, I got it. It changed my life. I absolutely loved being involved in, policy. I helped co-write, one of the first plastic bag bans after Santa Monica, one of the first polystyrene bans. I worked with, against the lobbyists of polystyrene community, and whoa, that felt really intense.
Mm-hmm.
And then and just lots of other projects. But what as things happen, government has to transition. I went through a recession. I've gone through multiple now, so I should name them, but I haven't yet.
Yeah.
Found myself in a city clerk's office. No one ever says they want to be a city clerk when they grow up. I've never met anybody yet to this day. Maybe there is one.
I don't think I have either.
Right? No one says
That's so
that.
important. Such important work.
But you are like front line of everything that happens in the city clerk's office. You're working with the council and the elected, you're front line of public policy. You get to hear and see everything that's happening, and you get to be this liaison to the public and connect the public to government. And you're the good guy because you're like Switzerland, right? The good guy or gal. And it's just, so I've just continued on through that. And anytime there was ever a door that opened, I just walked through it. And that's how my career has progressed. And it's been 20 years, and I never regretted a single day.
That's awesome. Well, we listed in your bio a number of places you've worked for. And so you've walked through a lot of doors, right? So in that context, what sorts of work have you been responsible for in the multiple roles over the years? And are there any particular notable experiences that have stood out to you that have helped you learn?
Yeah. I mean, I guess when I was thinking about this ahead of time, I'm like, okay, oh my goodness, there's such a diversity of projects they've gotten to work on because I worked in agencies, and the type of personality I have is if someone says, hey, we have a need, I just raise my hand and said, I'm interested. I want to learn. I want to help. Those are my two things. I want to learn. I want to help. So I got to manage a $5 million grant to build a youth violence prevention center and program. That was amazing. I got to manage munitions and ammunition cleanup on a former military base for land use planning. My most recent excitement was I get to manage a water treatment facility and a wastewater treatment facility, and bring a membrane bioreactor online. I am not an engineer. I am not a treatment specialist, but I can do project management, and that just kind of opens up so many opportunities. I talked about, being involved in policy. We have all these things that happen that changes. I mean, when COVID happened, we had to change policies. Short-term rentals, you got to develop a policy. You got to figure out how to manage that. Cannabis regulations, things just continue to change. And so social media. I managed the social media and had 12 different accounts at one point and built websites and all sorts of things. And that was a whole new world when that became, wait, cities are on social media? Wait, do we engage with our public? Do we comment? Do we not comment? Do we let, just how do you adapt? And so every one of those opportunities just reminded me that government has to be transitional and it has to be adaptive to whatever the needs of the community is, right? Our boards and commissions can come and go depending on your needs, but it has to be innovative, and it has to be, it has to ebb and flow. And then I guess through all of this, just all my different projects, I realized the ones that were the most successful were the ones when we decided to bring people along with us, where we decided we did governing with people, not to people.
Mm-hmm.
So all my favorite projects that I worked on, our Census 2020 efforts, where we kind of
Yeah.
connected everybody through the trusted messengers, and we decided, hey, how do we come together as a community to do this? We're so much more successful when we bring people along with us.
Well, and such a cool concept of trusting the experience, the lived experience, and that perspective of the community. Because we apply for these jobs, we compete for these jobs, we get these
Mhm.
jobs, and a lot of that comes with our education, our background, our knowledge, our experience. There's something that is so special about the community perspective and being able to utilize that, infuse that, and like you mentioned, kind of inclusively bring them along in those processes, which is, I don't know, I just think that those are some of my favorite projects too. As you're talking about this, I'm like, oh yes,
Right.
yes.
I mean, I could talk about all the projects where we were actually just dragging the community along, kicking and screaming. We've had those
Sure.
too, right?
Yeah.
Certain
Yeah.
development projects. How about the RENA? Our our housing
Housing.
policy. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. So I'd
Yeah.
rather do
Yeah.
it with people. It's those are the ones where I remember them pleasantly
Yes.
when we do
Yes.
it with
Well,
people.
and you have both sides, right? So, and I think that's the thing, is that that's some of those projects that give you like that aspect of hope, and you're doing the right thing and it feels good,
Yeah.
and that helps fill the cup for the days when you have to do the other type of project, or
Yes.
you know respond to new state law for housing and other things that California has going on right now. So that aspect
Absolutely.
of hope and togetherness, it goes a long way to fill the cup. So
Agreed.
yeah. Well, let's go back to the city clerk concept, because this was really interesting to me, because I don't think, at least for me, I haven't had any, city clerk or former city clerk guests on the pod. Um, and so I was really curious about this, because you served in these roles in a couple different places, and that route doesn't always lead to city management. And so I'm curious about what skills this path help you master, and what advantages this might have afforded you with the work that you do now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely a non-traditional path, right? And
Yeah,
I can't say that just any city clerk can just jump into a city manager role. It really is.
sure.
It takes some specific skill sets and desires, right? Some people really like I'm the front row to policy, but I don't have any responsibility for the decision because it's the easy way, right? The council, city managers, and staff are making all the hard decisions. I'm just recording it in perpetuity.
Hmm.
Um, but as a city clerk, and the role of the city clerk and the position of it has kind of changed a lot, and we've really added as a profession, we've added a lot of professionalism to it, trying to educate city clerks, going, these are your roles. Here's how, you're not just recording the events of the city, but you are managing information. You are an
Hmm.
information manager and trying to make it available to the public to enhance public trust, right? So how can we
Yeah.
take the thousands of records that we create, make them available, make them searchable, make them tangible and accessible to the public so that they can trust what we're doing. And they don't think there's all these behind the scenes things that they're trying to do. And they put
Right.
in hundreds and hundreds of PRAs to try to do the gotchas and think that, oh, your stereotypical government employee is bad and they're trying to do malicious things or hide things. We don't have time for that,
Right.
right? We just don't have time for that. And so, working in the last couple cities, so I was the clerk for the city of Seaside as well as for the city of Palo Alto. I was council appointed. I worked directly for the council in Palo
Hmm.
Alto, which was an interesting experience as well. But just finding different ways to help staff work smarter and provide them the resources that they need to get their job done. I don't think that was ever on the forefront before, except for the last several years, and then
Hmm.
making everything available to the public to really build the trust of the organization. Um, and I think those are two things, like, and when and you have those two kind of philosophies in mind, that's really what city managers do, right? You're building
Sure.
trust with you're building trust with the community, and you're trying to make your organization as efficient and effective as possible, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the and then you just pay attention. You read all the documents. You
Right.
understand what's going on. And I love sitting around the executive team table going, "You're working on that project? Did you know that she's working on that project too? Yeah, I've seen these
Right.
documents come through. Maybe you guys should work together.
Right.
Did you know you're duplicating exactly what they're doing? Or hey, did you kind of have like your pulse on everything,
Yeah.
just like a city manager needs to. Hey, did you see the thing on social media? Did you know that, all these people are coming with a petition tonight to the council meeting? Hey, did you know? Hey, did you know? It's just this facilitator. And that's
Yeah.
really kind of what administration is, between the council, the community, the staff, different divisions, operations. So kind of was a natural ebb and flow for me because I just want to learn everything.
Yeah. Well, and who knew matchmaker was part of the job description, right? Like, you two should work together.
Absolutely.
Part of those
Absolutely.
other duties is assigned, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. Well, and it's also interesting to me as I was learning a little bit about your background that some of the times that you have spent in these roles has been in some smaller cities here in California,
Mhm.
and then you've also kind of shifted to some other, like Palo Alto is a little bit larger of a city. Can you tell us a little bit about, from your perspective, what is unique or notable about the small city experience, and how might that be different from the work that you've done in some of the larger cities?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I find so fascinating. So when I started in City of Monterey, population about 26,000 people,
Hmm.
we have 500 FTEs. A pretty sizable budget, in order to accomplish all the things we need to do. Lots of TOT because it's a tourist-based region.
Hmm.
And I thought, okay, well, this is great. I feel it's and we serve a very specific population. We have our residents and we have our tourist industry, but we also have military bases that the Naval Postgraduate School and the international, the Naval Language Center. So
Hmm.
when I moved over to Seaside, it was a larger population, larger landmass, over 30,000 people, 10 square miles, but only 120 FTEs. So we had a
Wow.
quarter of the staff to accomplish more work with half the budget. I mean,
Wow.
when I talk about like, you have to be creative. You go to conferences and use steel pens because you're just so under resourced. But you
Sure.
still, but you make it work and you get creative and you have to get innovative. You're like, no, I can't afford that software. How can I hack the software that I currently have to make it do multiple things? And
Hmm.
so I enjoyed that. I think it was like a scrappy nature of the organization. I know a lot of cities in California are like that. And then definitely, our economics go up and down. Some years you're flush and other years you're cuts. So you have to, again, this goes back to being adaptive. So I was doing my public leadership credential at Harvard, and one of the things they talk about was taking a policy. I'm sorry, I can't. Why can I can't think of the word intervention?
Oh, there
And
we go.
then,
Yeah.
yeah, policy intervention, and then bringing it to scale. And so I thought, wow, I've worked in these cities of like 30-ish thousand people, and I worked with organizations between 100 and 500 people. What would it be like to take my successes here and try to do it at scale in a larger city, more bureaucratic, more, just more of everything. So that's why I went to the city of Palo Alto. I'm like, well, if I
Yeah.
can do it on a small scale, can I do it on a large scale? Can I take my policy interventions and my successes and make sure that they're, the three pillars of a policy intervention is making sure
Yeah.
it's technically correct, making sure it's politically supportable, and then making sure it's actually operationally implementable. So if you don't have all three of those legs of the stool, your policy intervention will not be successful. You got to have
Hmm.
everything. And Palo Alto was bureaucracy is real. Okay, it
Yeah.
is real. Things that you can do in a small city take so much more time in a large city. And I mean, we fall under the same rules and regulations. We fall under the same transparency regulations, the same financial guidelines, but every
Hmm.
city has learned to adapt for in specific ways, right? And
Yeah.
every city has a different level of risk aversion.
Mm-hmm.
And I found like that
And we don't talk
becomes,
about that enough sometimes.
yeah, I agree. And it depends on your city manager or your city attorney and the
Mm-hmm.
influence that they have, whether they feel comfortable enough letting you sign a $10,000 contract, $25,000 contract, a contract with slight risk or not. One of the things like I think that we need to remember is, some risk is okay if the benefits outweigh the risks.
Mm-hmm.
We have to say, yes, there is risk. We will acknowledge there's risk with everything. But sometimes those benefits far outweigh that. And it's the city manager's job to make that call, or staff's job to make that call and to negotiate that point. So in Palo Alto, it took me 11 months to get a $25,000 contract through.
Oh my goodness.
11
That sounds like
months.
brain damage. I'm so sorry.
Yes, it was a nightmare. You want to talk about bureaucratic nightmare? And then anytime it's the whole bringing people along with you. That's how I
Mm-hmm.
found that I've been successful is you keep people informed. Anytime it changes, you circle back with them and make sure everybody is tracking and staying up with you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have 26 different department heads and every time something changes, you have to revisit it with all 26 department heads to keep it
Sure.
tracking, it is exhausting,
Yep.
right?
That process of churn is a lot of
Yeah,
someone's time and lots
it
of people's
is.
time, but someone who's sort of has taken that issue by the reins or whatever. There's a lot of time invested in that.
Yep. And you have to make sure that you invest in your relationships with people, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can ask people for things. I think that's one of the things I love about working in local government is the majority of us, we really do care about our job. We're not just there for the money, right?
Right.
And so having the relationship with people, and when you need something, they understand how important it is to you, and you understand what their authority is and what their plate is holding. So I mean, if you don't develop those relationships with people and you just continually ask for things and get frustrated why they don't respond, you're like, well, they have 35 other things they're working on
Right.
that are on fire right now. No, literally, it could be on
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah.
So, my house is right outside my house is in City of Calistoga, and it's right
Mm-hmm.
outside the fire zone right now for the
Oh
picket
goodness.
fire. And
Yeah.
so you're like, no, literally, my water treatment plant is in the evacuation zone. It could be on fire right now.
Oh
I got to
goodness.
give people grace. So anyway, that's about relationships. But then,
Yeah.
so working for the city of St. Helena, going back to size,
Mm-hmm.
6,000 people, still 120 FTEs, the same amount as I had in Seaside,
Mm-hmm.
like 3 square miles. And I've got a budget that's bigger than the whole city of Seaside. So I have a lot of
Wow.
money. I've got a small population, but no, it's still an unyielding level of work
Yeah.
because every city, so the 4 cities, we're all local government, same rules and regulations, but we cater to our populations differently, and we have to.
Mm-hmm.
Their needs, their desires, their wants, their wishes, their dreams, they're all they're all different. And if you just say, oh, it's a rubber stamp, I did this in one city, I can do it in another. That's probably my biggest lesson I ever learned was you can't do things the same. They do not work. You have to make them adaptive. And I know some people, they say that you have to use an evidence-based solution. Like, yes, but what happens in Stockton is not the same as what can happen in San Francisco or in tiny little St. Helena. They're
Mm-hmm.
different pieces to the puzzle. They don't fit together. You have
Yeah.
to mold them and you have to make them work.
Yeah. Well, and the lessons that you can take from the way that you did it before in that place are still very valuable if you
Mm-hmm.
then, to your point, can make them valuable to the new location or new expectations of a community. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I love that.
Expectations of a community.
Yep.
Excellent. Excellent word.
Yep. Yep. That's the thing that, when we get up every day and spring out of bed to go to our local government job, shows up with us every time.
Yes, it does. Managing expectations. That's the term I think I'm known for in St. Helena now. Like we have to manage expectations.
Yes.
internally
Yes.
as well as externally.
Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about St. Helena. So, I live in California, and when you live here, I feel like you have an incredible privilege to be able to see the entirety of the state through travel and that sort of thing. Because our state is, gigantic comparatively to the same, footprint on the East Coast. You traverse multiple states, right? So we have a lot going on in
Yes.
California. But St. Helena is located about 60 miles or so north of San Francisco. It's known for viticulture. It's got a culinary scene. We have famous vineyards and wineries. The Culinary Institute of America at Greystone is there, which is incredible. And
Hmm.
it really has a strong historic character. And I know there's multiple blocks in St. Helena's downtown that are listed as National Historic District on the National Register, right? So these really beautiful, quintessential old California cities. It's got a beautiful square. Tell our listeners a little bit about St. Helena and how the city provides service in this community with expectations.
Absolutely. And there's no lacking of expectations. So you have to understand, how to provide services to your community. You really have to understand who it is and what do they
Mm-hmm.
want. Um, we have a population, the demographic, they are an older population. If you look at the
Mm-hmm.
demographics, they are one of the oldest populations of in California and most of the West Coast just by age. But they are very well educated. We have a highly educated population. We have a highly successful population financially as well as professionally. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them, because they've been successful in their lives, and they've chosen to settle down or they've been from St. Helena. Now they are all retired. They all have a lot of free time on their hands.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But they have high expectations about the services that we provide to them and how we provide services. And so when I came to St. Helena, one of the things that our city manager said, he's like, we need to work smarter. We need to operationalize and digitally enhance our digital assets and services. And so we started, okay, let's get a new website. Let's do online permitting. Let's do this digital and this digital and this digital. And then we were wondering, well, doesn't the community see? Don't they see all these improvements we're making?
Right.
But remember, our demographic is a lot older, and older people don't necessarily like technology the same way that younger people do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, no, they weren't seeing it because they still want to come to City Hall and they still want to talk to a person, or they want us to come to their house, or if they call, they still want a direct human. You can't automate
Mm-hmm.
a phone tree. They were going to come down with pitchforks and torches, right?
Oh, goodness.
So, yeah, so, it's an ebb and flow of we want to advance and provide the most efficient services, using taxpayer money at the most cost effective way, but at the same time, we have to recognize what our population wanted. And so we kind of pulled back
Yeah.
on some of the outward facing digital initiatives so we could maintain that human connection and touch. I call them a high touch
Yeah.
community, right?
Yep.
They have high
Yep.
expectations and they want personal connection. They want to know about your kid, how their first day of school was. They want to see you at the grocery store. They want you to come to their house, even though the tree is on private property, and then say, hey, what do you think I should do about this tree? Just, and they want that connection. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
different than ways we've done it in other cities, or if you're in a larger community. City of Palo Alto, I was on the seventh floor. I rarely ever saw members of the community unless they came to a public meeting.
Sure.
And and that's one of the reasons why I left. I wanted connection with the humans I want to help.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just, that was really fascinating for me. It took me about a year to recognize they weren't appreciative of all these changes we were trying to make because those weren't the changes that they wanted, right? They didn't see how it enhanced their services because they felt like they were losing.
Right.
They thought they were losing service when we were just trying to be more efficient. Isn't that an interesting,
Yeah.
um,
Well,
unanticipated consequence?
right, right. Well, and thinking about the we were talking about earlier about the perspective of the community, that was their perspective, that they're losing out on something, or something that they have long relied on is going away, and that connection becomes elusive. And that's also probably, not to generalize, but also probably embedded in an older generation who, when things change, and change can be uncomfortable or hard to navigate,
Hmm.
that they want that person, that helper, that friendly face, there. And
Yeah.
I think that's a very interesting thing to think about as we get older in our roles in local government, and what even we are going to want, at the age that your population is, because it's we grew up with different technology than perhaps, say my parents, my grandparents did, right?
Yeah.
And thinking about what that is going to look like as it manifests, that those changes over time, and how you can still, engage with those communities, hopefully meet their expectations, and understand their position and why things are important to them, and how do you
Yeah.
build that into, so, the very form of bureaucracy and process of a city, right?
Absolutely. But we can't leave other people behind. So even though we only have maybe 10% young people, I still have to cater to those young people.
That's
We
right.
still have to. So you still, even though the majority of your citizens want one thing, you still need to make sure you're not leaving anyone behind.
Hmm.
So while the older people might go, we didn't need a new website, you're like, actually, there is a portion of our population that did and
Yeah.
do want these services, and they want access to a 24/7 digital city hall system. And that's okay. We can, we,
Yeah.
we can try to have it all. Why not?
Yeah. Well, and in particular in these spaces where, like, not leaving behind, certain portions of the population, is where is their overlap, right? And I've
Yes.
seen this in a couple of places, in my past roles, like planning parks, for example. Often the same thing that the youth want, the elders want too, right? They want a safe, well lit space, right? And it's
Yeah,
so funny to see how some of those needs and wants, even if they manifest a little bit differently, are very much timeless, regardless of population and regardless of age, or generational differences and things like that.
agreed. Agreed. It's just great when you can get into a space where they can tell you what they want, right?
Yeah.
And we ask, this is one of probably the hardest things that I haven't quite resolved in my whole career, is we reach out to the community and ask for their input. But they're busy living their lives. And then when something happens, they're like, why didn't I know? You're like,
Right.
well, I had 16 public hearings on it. I mailed things to your house. We had it on the newspaper. We had it on the TV, but you didn't notice? I don't know. So
Yeah.
I want them to all have the ability to contribute, because when they do, then they feel like connection. It's great. But
Yeah.
reaching out to people in the way that they absorb information seems to be growing more challenging than being resolved,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I can see that. Yeah. Well, one of the cool things that I think St. Helena has done, um, to try and get after this kind of crux of this question, is the city's community academy. Let's talk a little bit about this, because I think this is a really cool example. So this is a 6-week program designed to help residents understand city operations, through kind of a behind the scenes, view, where there's a little VIP, there's a little bit behind the scenes. Tell me a little bit about what inspired this initiative, and how have participants responded to these experiences.
Yeah, for sure. This has been, it was some work to get up and running, but actually has been really easy after you've got the foundation set,
Hmm.
and it's just continuing to reap benefits. So 6 weeks, open to anybody. There was lots of conversations. Well, should it just be residents? No, we have business owners here too, but don't live here. We have
Hmm.
staff members who would love to be, we've got other community members who might be interested. So we left it open. Anyone can come, 6 weeks, hour and a half on a Wednesday night, and every night talks about a different topic. And you get like, it stemmed from a community survey that we had where the results were not glowing about the city. It was,
Hmm.
there's no transparency. Do you feel, is there a trust in government? Very low score on that one. Do you believe that resources are allocated efficiently? Very low score on that one. And just, I was like, I just didn't believe that could be the case. A lot of it is just, they just didn't know. When you hear some of the public comments
Hmm.
at council meetings, or if you read next door and they're like, I don't understand why they're wasting. You're like, well, if you don't understand, I want to give you a venue to ask the question so you understand.
Yeah.
Some people don't like the whole public commenting process because it's not interactive,
Hmm.
right? they ask their question, maybe it gets answered, maybe not, but there's not enough time to give them context to the whole process and I hate this term, but it's really, really visible, the sausage making, right? That
Sure.
happens behind the scenes. They say it's a fully baked item when it comes to the council meeting. Why should I bother to participate? And so I
Yeah.
like, let's give people the behind the curtains look. Not only we'll tell you how it works, like, here are all the regulations that we have to abide by. Here are the
Mhm.
rules, the procedures, the policies, the ordinances, the histories. What, and then on top of that, let's throw in the Brown Act, let's throw in the Public Records Act, let's
Right.
throw in, then we'll throw in all industry standards like the building code, and
Mhm.
we're gonna, the state and the local, I mean, all the different ways that government has been designed. It was never designed to be efficient, it was designed to be transparent, right,
Right,
and
right. Yeah,
safe. We're
it's a
trying,
feature, not a bug, right?
yes. And so when you just kind of go, I loved the academy program. Our first class was like 25 people, and they were like, but why don't we? And you're like, well, let me tell you why. And they're like, oh, I didn't
Yeah.
know that. Well, what about? And you're like, well, let me tell you. Oh, I didn't know that. And you could see it within the first 3 weeks. It went from a hostile environment to then one of curiosity.
Very
And that
cool.
was my ask at the beginning. I said, you think you know, just have an open mind. If you have a question, just be curious. Just be curious. We are here. We want to give you a face to face connection with the staff members so
Mhm.
that you can develop a relationship, so you know who to call if you have a question in the future, or if you see something online that you want to know the real truth of. You have their phone number, you have their email, you've developed a relationship, and you can, you
Reach
can ask
out and
those
ask.
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the best part about this program was, and I took surveys after every session at the very end. I said, what was your biggest takeaway from this academy program? And the comment that came more than any others, I think almost every respondent said, we have highly professional, very skilled, very educated and trained staff members. And I was surprised by that. Like
Nice.
just listening to our directors or our speakers talk, it built such trust, because on social media they're like, oh, these people are underqualified, and they would say negative things. And at the end, they were so impressed at the quality and caliber of our employees. That was probably our biggest takeaway.
That's awesome. Well,
One
and
of the
these folks are real people,
good,
right? At the end of the
yes,
day, not just some bureaucratic robot that, sits behind a permit desk. They might do that too, but they're not
yep,
bureaucratic robots, right? Like there's a whole reason behind the why.
yes.
Yeah.
The why is huge. And just, I mean, again, I've done a program similar to this in another city, where it's just humanizing it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
you know you can sit behind a computer and say all sorts of things, but when you really connect them to the person, or I'll go sit by the person who comments on next door. I'll be like, hey, how's your garden? I saw that your tree's blooming, it's beautiful. Changes
Yeah.
the conversation.
It does. It does. Well, it harkens back to one of my, favorite accidental leadership television shows, Ted Lasso.
Oh, yes.
Right? Be curious, not
Love
judgmental.
that. Yes. That was an amazing show just at the
Yeah.
time we needed it.
Yes. Who knew that was ripe for leadership lessons in local government? But that was one of
100%.
my favorites about being curious and not judgmental. And I, it takes so much energy to have rage and be angry at
Yeah.
bureaucracy. And it's if you can reorient that energy into productive conversations, and um, you don't have to agree, but you can understand, right? Those
Yes.
spaces are so much more productive for the entirety of the community, and allows for say you or others in these leadership positions, department directors, what have you, um, be in the space where they can actually utilize their professional energy toward making the community better as well, because they're not caught up with trying to placate or, you know, listen to or just
Hmm.
tolerate somebody with that kind of anger and rage at bureaucracy. So I think that's when both sides kind of realize that. And this is such a cool program because it gives you that space to be able to have those conversations. So well done.
Thank you. Yeah, I think there's probably one of the most frustrating things on a staff level is the, I guess, the regression of civility that's been
Hmm.
happening.
Yeah.
In our public meetings or online, and it's very difficult for people emotionally. And so, how can we? I haven't found the solution yet, but we've got to come up with some social engineering to help reinstall regulations on civility and how we treat people again. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
so one thing that we did ask, the one ask at the very end of the program, the last night was, if you're interested in, furthering, this is how you can help your community. You can volunteer at an organization, you can volunteer at a board or commission, you can do this, you can do that. But if our only ask of you is, now that we've shared this information with you, if you see someone else sharing misinformation, please be an advocate and correct them,
Yeah.
peer to
Excellent.
peer, citizen to
Hmm.
citizen, so that we don't continue to allow, because what you allow, you condone. We don't want to continue to allow people to treat people badly based on misinformation.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's such a cool program that I've seen kind of coming out of St. Helena. And there's probably a lot of other things that are out there. Are there a few other projects or initiatives you and your team have worked on in St. Helena that you're particularly proud of? We'll do a shout out to the team.
well, I love giving shout outs to my team because we are strong and I mean, we are tiny, but we are mighty. I mean, just through the amount of work that we tend to go through, we have an $80 million capital improvement budget, 5-year CIP.
Wow.
And for a town that's our size, with our budget size, it's huge. It's the underinvestment in our utilities and our water and our wastewater infrastructure
Hmm.
has been palpable, which has led to, oh, if you only read the news, I hope you don't. Please don't look up discolored water in St. Helena. They just, under management of resources.
Hmm.
You will, it will catch up to you one day, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
continuously be proactive. I mean, that we just launched our wastewater treatment plant, membrane bioreactor facility I talked about before. Huge
Yeah.
step forward for the city of 6,000 people to have their own water and wastewater treatment systems. So this is cutting edge technology. We were able to get a lot of grants to do this project, but we wanted to make sure that we protected the Napa River and the ecosystem and
Hmm.
all the cities downstream from it. So that I just, small team, 3 people work at our wastewater treatment plant, plus our small engineering staff and our public works teams. It's just
Hmm.
not many people to do huge projects. Um, some of the other, we've done over the last year. I really pushed my parks team really hard, and we did 6 park rehabilitations. I mean,
Wow.
as you know, I mean, people are very particular and protective of their parks. We're
They are.
protective of water and trees, right? Water, trees, and parks.
Yes.
And I think that was a huge success for us because, like I told you, that community survey had terrible, terrible remarks. And
Hmm.
then this year's survey on our, it moved the dial on the community perspective, whether you think the city is efficiently operating. We were bumped 12 percentage points from the
Nice.
last survey. And I'm like, whoa, that's amazing. I just felt like doing projects that are visible to the public that they are interested in can
Hmm.
really help, and then it was just connecting with people, calling them back in a timely manner, responding to their email, even though you have 35 meetings in one day. That
Right.
was the one that helped us. I think just some of those really visible projects and tackling projects that were on the books for 15, 20 years
Sure.
and making progress on them. building, I know these are crazy, building a new intake tower in our reservoir. That was been on the books for 15 years. And we have one resident who is very, very, very interested in it and brings it up at every meeting. And so
There's
we're like,
always the one.
fine. Yep. I call them our professional citizens,
Right,
right?
right.
and they have their interests. And sometimes it's okay to try to give them a win and get them um, turning an enemy into an advocate. That's
Mm-hmm,
always like
mm-hmm.
one of my goals, is I want to figure out how to turn our enemies into our advocates. So through these projects, I just felt like 12% on a community satisfaction survey was a huge jump.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, and I think there's you've talked about this kind of a through line in our conversation today about this public trust, but that you ask questions that maybe you didn't really love the answers because of what they were telling you.
Yes.
But it's also a learning moment, right? It's an opportunity for your city, your city manager, your staff, to take that data and be able to do something with it, right? And I think that's part of why a why a jump or something may happen in that context, because you can say, oh, we took this data and we actually listened to what you had to say, and it may not have been something we were prepared to hear, but we took it seriously, we did something with it, we were able to move forward on something, and
Yeah.
here's what we did with it, and you should know about this. And or if it's a park thing, here's this very visible thing that we did, we heard you, right? And I think there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of value in some of those data points, regardless if it's community survey or other ways cities communicate with their population, is to be able to say, look, we heard you and we did something with it.
Yeah.
Half the time that's just what people want, is to be heard, right? And it may not be the thing that they
Yes.
love, but I mean, who doesn't love a new park, right? So
Agreed. Agreed. And I completely agree with you. They want to be heard and they want to know that you've done something with it. Some of the challenges I've experienced in every city, and being I call it a recovering city clerk, using the either, using the data that you have and learning from it and using data informed decision making.
Mhm.
Or if you're not collecting the data, start collecting it.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Start collecting it. There's so
Yes.
many different data points that we weren't collecting that were so impactful. And you're like, wow, when you look at the trend, wow, there's my problem right there. And it's been staring me in the face had I only been paying attention and collecting the data. So
Yeah.
data informed decision making. Another success, like we did a survey, an internal survey as well. One had been done 5 years before, and I did one the first year I was there, and then I did another one this year. And just in the last 18 months, like even internally, because we also we wanted to make sure that we supported our staff as
Hmm.
well. And understood what are your pain points. Like a lot of cities in California, we're having a hard time recruiting. We're
Yeah.
having an exceptionally hard time recruiting because our cost of living is one of the highest in the state.
Hmm.
And I mean, Napa Valley seems so close. We don't like the majority, and I did a heat map of where all of our staff live. The majority of people live 45 minutes or more away. We have some people who are commuting
Wow.
2 and 3 hours a day. And I mean, all of my public works on-call staff, we had to change our policy to do a one
Hmm.
hour response time, not a 20-minute response time, because nobody can afford to live within 20 minutes of the city. We
Yeah.
only have 2 staff members who live in the city. Um, and and so that was understanding that through the employee survey was like, well, what do we need to do what do we need to do to make sure that this place is um, responsive to the needs of our staff,
Hmm.
that creates a workspace where they're willing to commute 1 to 3 hours and still find it worth their while, because our wages, we're a city of 6,000 people. We can't pay incredibly high wages. We don't have a lot of taxes.
Yeah.
So staying competitive, making sure our employees are happy, and somehow trying to find a way to build housing.
Yeah.
Let's, subsidizing it, using housing funds, having, developers pay. I mean, there's so many different opportunities.
Sure.
Right now, I'm trying to do modular housing for my chief water treatment plant operator and my chief wastewater treatment plant operator. it's not as easy as people think, even on
Right.
city-owned land, just
Yeah.
making affordable housing. Oh my goodness. But it's something that we have to do because every city is struggling with this.
Mm-hmm.
And our communities, I don't know if it's like this for you, but our citizens are like, well, you don't live here, so you must not care. I care. We care. We
Yes.
really do. That is a crazy misnomer.
It really is. Well, and in the words of the famous Leslie Knope, like I care a lot.
Yes.
It's kind of my thing, right? Like, that's
I
why
think
we're
my
here in these roles.
I think my favorite Leslie Knope one was when people are yelling at me, I just feel they're caring very loudly.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing about, communities that it's expensive to live in, or there's scarcity of housing, or what have you, is that it starts to impact the ability to meet community expectations, to be able to
Yes.
do the basic functions of these jobs. And so St. Helena or others are in a really unique position to get creative around some of these ideas. And I'm not sure any of them have quite cracked the code just yet, but being mindful of that, using data from your staff, all of that is incredible. Because whether it's through your Citizens Academy, where they realize that like these are real humans and they care and they want to be here, also having a way to facilitate that in a meaningful way to help the services to the community. It's all intertwined.
Mm-hmm. It absolutely is.
Yeah, yeah, excellent. Well, Leslie, this has been such a lovely chat. And as we wrap things up today, tell us what's next for you. What are some special or interesting things you're working on that our listeners should look out for?
I just, one of my former city managers and we always said, as long as I'm providing value, I'm going to stick around. And every day I feel like I get to provide value on something. I'm excited for my housing project to be able to provide some affordable housing some subsidized housing for my staff
Mhm.
members. I'm excited to do a lot of the infrastructure improvements and put our record breaking 5-year CIP into play and get some of those projects to the finish line. And we also launched a transparency portal so the public can follow along with us to see where we are.
Very
How much
cool.
of the money have we spent? Where are we at in the project? Is it delayed? Is it not? So we can bring them along with us. Um, yeah. Oh, I had another project. I'm just more park rehabilitations. The next community academy launches in next month, so
Awesome.
recruiting now, and I'm excited for what every class is a little bit different, and you come away with different feelings and expectations and um, ideas, and then you can motivate those newly, energized citizens into community action. I've seen a couple nonprofits pop up because of our community academy,
Very neat.
because they're like, where government, because I try to use the message that where government stops, this is where the community needs to pick it up. This is where
Hmm.
nonprofits pick up, and then we have to work together. So
Right.
I'm excited to see what kinds of things pop up after this next community academy, and I'd be happy to share it with you.
Excellent. Oh, I'm so excited about that. Well, I hope it goes well. Um, and so, last question here for today. If you could be the GovLove DJ, what song would you pick as the exit music for this episode?
Oh, there's one song immediately that came to my mind because it kind of is my life mantra. It's "Best Day of My Life" by American authors.
Yep.
Just because I want every day, I want to be like, it's gonna be the best day of my life. That's how I feel like. I feel like I go to work like that every day. I don't get the Sunday blues where, oh, I gotta go to work tomorrow. Every morning I'm like excited to go to work and make it my best day ever. So that's what I would put as my DJ exit.
Very nice. Well, you and I have just met, but I can visualize you like skipping to that song across St. Helena Square. Like I love that.
Excellent. I've done my job. And yes, I do skip, so you're not wrong.
Very good. Awesome. Well, that ends our GovLove episode for today. A big thanks to Lesley for joining the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.
Great. Subscribe to GovLove on your favorite podcast app. New episodes drop every Friday. If you are already subscribed to GovLove, go tell a friend or colleague about this podcast or share on social media. Help us spread the word that GovLove is the go-to place for local government stories. GovLove is brought to you by ELGL, Engaging Local Government Leaders. The best way to support ELGL is to become a member and register today for the ELGL conference happening in Santa Rosa, California from October 1st through 3rd, 2025. You can reach us online at elgl.org/govlove or at GovLove Podcast on LinkedIn, Instagram, and X. Thanks for listening. This has been GovLove, a podcast about local government.